Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Retro Gamers Podcast, your home for casual coffee table conversations with everything retro gaming. Anthony here, and being joined this week by my friend Jon Pratt. John, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Good to be back.
All right, it was great having you last year. Even better having you this year. I love repeat performances.
Yeah. Last one was fun too, man. The Halloween episode, it's right up my alley.
Yeah, no, I look, you don't need to give me an excuse to talk horror games, and I know you're the same exact way. So that was definitely one of the highlights of last year for me, for sure.
Yeah,
And you know what? There's another Halloween coming up this year, so
that's right.
yeah. But before we get into our topic for the day, John, have you been playing anything? What's been keeping you busy, man?
Uh, well, other than sicknesses, which we were talking about prior,
Yeah,
nothing really too crazy on the video game front. I did finally get into Aliens Dark Descent, which is a squad-based tactical, game set in the Aliens universe.
nice.
Having a pretty fun time with that. It's pretty challenging. Um, Past that, I haven't really picked up too much. It's it's lucky if I get an hour in a given night between the two children if I have time to squeak in anything at all. So
That's
uh,
fair.
I have to boot them off Roblox, which is a discussion for another time.
Oh no, not the Roblox.
Yeah, Roblox has invaded my household.
My condolences, man. That's like a World of Warcraft for kids. They just eat that up.
And then the conversations that they have with each other, like my oldest son's friend was over, and all three of them were playing Roblox on the same server, and it's like they were speaking a different language. Like it's all in Italian for some reason. Like, hey, did you pick up the Dragon Fruitini? I'm like, what is going on here?
Huh.
Like,
Well, see, that just makes me want to investigate and see if they were like if it was designed by Italians. Like maybe it's an
yeah,
Italian design game.
and that very may well be.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. You could always just pick up Roblox and play with them then
Yeah, I don't
instead
want
of
to do
yeah, I don't blame you.
it. I don't want to do
No, trust me, I don't blame you with that. I don't think I could ever sit down and focus on a game like that. But again, I'm not their demo, so I'll go there. Neither are you.
it. Yeah,
But
no.
cool. All right. So a little aliens. That's pretty cool. I've been busy with. I just came back from another trip to Canada, and I've been a bit busy with my Nintendo 3DS, which I finally cracked open after buying it like 3 years ago from Game On in Long Island. Um, and I started playing Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, and that has slowly become my go-to game when I travel. So like last year when I was traveling for, like October and December and stuff like that, I took it with me. I went to Canada for a week and I took it with me. And I'm at the end of that game. I'm on like, I just have to go into the castle and beat whoever the main enemy is in the game. I can't remember the name of him right now. It's not Ganon. But I gotta tell you something. It's like because I never played handhelds before and I'm really just starting. I missed out on some gems. I know I missed out on some gems, but Link Between Worlds is just fantastic. I'm having a blast with that one. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
it's been ages since I mean, I touched on that a little bit ages ago, back when I had an actual Game Boy. But yeah,
yeah.
there was a period of time where I just didn't pick up handheld games at all. From the I don't know, up until the Advance era. I picked up an Advance just to play Castlevania Circle of the Moon and
hmm
the Tactics Ogre game that came out. But at that point,
Uh, Final Fantasy Tactics or different
no,
tactics?
it was an Ogre Tactics game
Oh, okay.
for the Advance. And this was, by this time though, I was, 18, 19 years old. And so I would pick it up, play it for a minute, put it down, and then just get on to something else. And I just traded it in, never got into the like DSi or 3DS or any of that. But there have been some really good games that have come out.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, like I said, I skipped all the handhelds. Literally, like the first real handheld I've actually played would be the Nintendo Switch, if you want to count that.
Yeah,
And that kind of became my gateway into going backwards. So now, like, I think I have most of the Zelda DS games now. And I have a couple of the Game Boy ones, but I'm gonna slowly go back and like kind of grab those because they look beautiful. They really do. Like they all play like 16, like at least the ones on the DS play like 16-bit like Link to the Past
yeah.
style, which and Link to the Past was amazing. So I'm gonna put some more work in um on that. And aside from that, the other things I've been busy with, and I'm gonna get to my shopping from my trip because every time I go to Canada, I wind up coming back with games. Even though I say I'm not going to do it, I do it anyway. But I've also been busy building out some new stuff for the Retro Gamers podcast. Last week we just debuted a new video that a new video format that we're doing called Rewriting Wrestling History. And what I did, and with my former co-host Larry Mormon, we re-recorded the WWF Royal Rumble 2000 card on No Mercy for the N64 to see if it would net out the same way or if different people would win or something like that. And Larry and I commentated the whole thing. So it was really fun for two lifelong wrestling fans to do something like that. Especially because like we saw that show live on pay-per-view together. Really, really cool thing to do. We're probably going to do more of those because we had such a good time with it. Hopefully it does well. It's up on YouTube and everywhere else. You can look us up everywhere at Retro Gamers Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. And the other new thing going on with the show is I am finalizing our Patreon page, which I've been wanting to do for years and years and years. But I'm finally getting to do that. The last episode, I think, with John, the point and click episode is up there. And then there are a couple of subscriber-based tiers on there so that people who want to support the podcast can support the podcast now by subscribing over there. And you get stuff like some exclusive content, exclusive videos. You get bonus levels for every episode of the podcast we record here. We do a little bit of an extended version of the show. So just some really cool stuff there. So it's just getting its legs. So there's not a ton of content on there now, but anybody who's interested, head over to Patreon, check it out at Retro Gamers Podcast. And if you want to help support the show and keep it rolling, feel free to subscribe. It is time to get to our topic for this episode, and I thought this would be a really fun one. I've thought this topic up last year, but we just did not get to it. We've been doing a lot of lists lately on the show, and I think it's just because there are a lot of like favorite elements that I want to touch on in games, but in a different way. I don't just want to do like this is the top 10 best selling or things like that, like to talk about them because those are just kind of facts. I love talking about um, things that warrant opinions and bias and things like that, based on your own experiences. So the topic for this week is going to be favorite game levels. So specifically what John and I did is we went through our memory banks, or for some of us who have really bad memories, I'm not naming names, me. We went into our video game collection to visually look at the games to try and remind themselves of what games they've played, what games they've had, and deciding on what were some of the favorite game levels you've ever played throughout the history of your retro gaming. Um, and John, I don't know, how easy was it for you to come up with a list for this?
I've been playing games for the better part of 35, 40 years, and this is a bit of a challenge for me because, as you know, and I'm sure the listeners have figured out by now that the games I like to play are RPGs, open world, survival
Yep.
horror games, and they don't traditionally meet the definition of what you might consider a level.
Yep.
Um, you
I had the
know,
same problem.
exactly. So for some of these, I'm gonna touch on the boundary. I might talk about a certain quest that has a hard origin, a hard stop. I think that qualifies as a level within an overarching game.
Yeah, I think we can make that type of exception. I tried really hard, like, because when I was looking them up, that was my problem too, because I kept thinking of, oh, I remember this. I'm like, oh, but it's not a level. It's really like just part of an overall RPG adventure. And um, s-
Snapshot in time, is that a
yes,
level?
exactly. And I think the way you described it, I think is perfectly logical. I wouldn't put a I wouldn't necessarily put like more open world-ish type of games on it necessarily unless they had something really compressed in it. Actually, I'm lying. I think I have one on my list. Never mind.
I might have one
Um,
too.
yeah, but yeah, so like for me, I tried my best to stick to platformers. So for everybody out there who knows how much of a Legend of Zelda fanatic I am, my list is not all Legend of Zelda. So, but let's get to the listing. John, why don't you kick us off with the first one that popped up on your list? And these could be in any order. It doesn't matter what system or what console, if it's PC, whatever it is. It's like just hit it.
All right. So then the first one that popped into my brain was the prologue mission to Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty for the PS2.
Okay.
For any of the hardcore Metal Gear fans, we waited 3 long years for this game to come out. This is the first game to come out on this generation of consoles, so everybody was stoked to see, Solid Snake finally make his return. Um, Leading up to the release of this game, everybody had a demo disc out. So EGM had a demo disc, GamePro had a demo disc, and in all the demo discs, you play the prologue of this game where you're playing as Solid Snake. You're making your grand entrance. You've got cool camo. You're on a tanker ship and stuff, and you're investigating a new Metal Gear. And it turns out that Revolver Ocelot's still alive, and he's kind of heading things up, and he's somehow possessed by Liquid Snake's arm, which is not. So there's a lot of like questions that get raised right off the rip. And so the game finally drops. You get it. You're immersed right back into that prologue mission. And after all that stuff happens, the tanker blows. Solid Snake is in the water, and it fades to black. And when you come out of the black, you're introduced to this blonde weirdo named Raiden, who is now the protagonist of the game that you play as for the rest of the game.
Oh wow.
You don't play as Solid Snake again. You get
Ooh.
communications from Solid Snake as he calls himself Iroquois Pliskin, which is a callback to Escape from New York and Escape from LA.
Oh yeah. Snake Plissken.
Snake Plissken, but you don't ever play as him again. So this is memorable in that that prologue mission, that demo mission, was one of the biggest bait and switches of any opening mission of all time in true Kojima style.
Oh wow. Now, let me ask you a question because I never got past Metal Gear Solid 1 because there was something about the format of the game that did not work for me. Um, was there backlash when from gamers when they found out, oh, we can't play as Snake, now we're playing as this other character? That to me, that would almost feel like there would be.
Yeah, it was universally panned off the rip. Like, who is this guy riding? Nobody wanted him. We wanted Snake, and we can't. And I think everybody was saying the same thing. Like, you teased us with Snake being this badass character, and now we can't have him at all. Now we're playing as this other dude.
Mhm.
Uh, since then, it's been, the game came out in 2001. I can't believe it's been 25 years, but
Wow.
the story for that game is um, considered to be one of the better Metal Gear Solid stories, like plots. And Kojima accurately predicted like the rise of AI and how information is disseminated. And this is before like social media and stuff was even a thing. And he called it in that video game.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, awesome and frightening at the same time, right?
and frightening. Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, so that intro level to you was just incredibly memorable, not only for the fact that it gave you a good setup on how to play the game, but then it just did a complete, I almost want to call it like an M. Night Shyamalan moment in a video game where it's like this complete shocker.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a twist, but it's an accurate and great tutorial in that it sets up, the new elements of the game. You can go into like a first person mode. You can actively target like people's kneecaps and stuff like that, where you couldn't do that before. The hiding mechanic, like hiding in, there's different things you can do there. The setting and then yeah, but just the giant bait and switch, um, taking Snake away and giving you this other guy. Um,
All right.
that was a
All right.
big part.
I mean that sounds cool. I always love it when games find a way to throw a twist in there for you, where like stuff that does come out of nowhere. Um, so, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, the developers knew they were taking a risk on that front.
Yeah,
Um, and it's awesome to see that show up on a list, especially if we're talking about favorite levels and stuff like that, because I'm sure other people who will talk about it would probably be like, yeah, I still hate that game just because it did that,
yeah,
you
right.
know. All right, so very cool. I'm going to jump over to actually a similar one on my list because my list is sort of I wrote my list in order of console release, sort kind of, but I want to bounce around so it's not all linear that way. So I'm going to go to PlayStation 1. And the reason why I want to go to this one is because it's kind of similar to what you were talking about with a tutorial level. And I'm going to go to Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man game on PlayStation came out in 2000. This game was such a monumental shift to me for Marvel superhero video games because we got a true 3D Spider-Man game. And anybody who's a Spider-Man fan knows Spider-Man is synonymous for swinging through the city on his web and all this stuff. And this game on the PlayStation was really the first introduction of doing that. Granted, graphic limitations left the city a little less to be desired. You basically stayed at the top of buildings and you didn't get to see the sky, the city below because, this was PlayStation 1. But still, the whole idea of that was just very intriguing. But the tutorial level was the one that I called out specifically as a level that I immediately go back to in my brain as being awesome because not only were they teaching you how to work the 3D elements of being Spider-Man, but who was the person teaching you to do it? None other than the man who created Spider-Man, Stan Lee.
Yeah,
Stan Lee doing the instructional voiceover for this game while you're learning to play Spider-Man, like to this day when I think about that level, it still gives me goosebumps because I'm like, holy cow, I have Stan Lee teaching me how to control Spider-Man.
Welcome, true believers and newcomers alike. Spider Man co creator Stan Lee here. Once again, we find our hero Peter Parker, better known around the world as the Amazing Spider Man, in a heap of trouble. But this is just the beginning, Spidey fans. So get ready for a true superhero action thriller, packed to the brim with thrills and chills, twists and turns, more supervillains than you can shake a web at, and of course, non-stop web-slinging, wall-crawling action.
And that was just everything to me, especially like I was a big comic book fan growing up, I still have a collection of comic books as well. So just that experience alone was super special to me. And that's not only that, but the fact that the Spider-Man game as well was, was very entertaining. Like I played through that entire game, absolutely loved it. You know, you have a who's who of Spider-Man's enemies in there that you play against, like Venom and Mysterio and Scorpion. So they didn't cheap out on the game itself. They definitely put a lot of work into it. But that Stanley tutorial to me is probably the best tutorial I've ever experienced.
yeah, that's yeah. I didn't think about that, but yeah, any kind of voiceover like that, especially with an OG like Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's like to me, it's almost like it was like in a way almost like the precursor to the way Stanley would do a cameo in every Marvel movie,
yeah,
while he was alive. You just had to look for him and you would find him there. But yeah, to me, like that was just such a nice touch and such an amazing touch, and one that I'll always remember from my video game experiences.
yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah. But all right, so that was mine. What do you have next?
Um, I kind of have a twofer. So
Oh,
also on the
interesting.
first one,
Hmm.
um, I was thinking about Final Fantasy VII pretty heavy when this topic first dropped.
Hmm.
I did listen to your Twist podcast, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs until you at the very end mentioned what goes down with Eris.
Yes.
But as far as an opening mission goes, in Final Fantasy VII, the bombing mission, which is the first one that you encounter,
Hmm.
you, it's 3D render of Eris selling flowers. You zoom out, you get to see kind of the street level. Zoom out, now you're seeing all of Midgar. You get the title screen, and then it zooms right back into, uh, you know, the fifth zone where the train is stopping and your team is just jumping off this train, and it just brings you right into the mission. Um, as like an opening level, that to me is still, I would say, top five. But then
Hmm.
again, your mission into the city of the ancients, even though the mission itself is pretty innocuous and the setting isn't all that interesting, it is the mission that leads up to arguably the one of the best, one of those most memorable, not only scenes in the game or in any Final Fantasy game, but in any game period.
Yes.
So I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, because I'm sure you had the same reaction I did. I witnessed her get murdered in front of everybody.
Yep.
I put the controller down and I had to go outside and just like touch grass for like an hour while I'm trying to like process what just happened in real time because it was the first, I guess, real permadeath situation that I had encountered in a video game.
Hmm.
And so, it wasn't uncommon for a character to, like in a platform, for instance, to get hit and die, game over. Dying is sort of an experience, but you're not attached to the character in a way that matters.
Hmm.
And even in Final Fantasy, like when you're in a random encounter and your HP goes to zero, you can still revive the character in the battle. You can revive them outside of the battle. Nobody really
Yeah.
dies.
No.
But this time somebody really died. And it just, yeah, those two things, I have to mention both those things.
Well, and the thing, yeah, to your point, like even with, like you said, with a platformer, it's like when you die as the main character that you're controlling, you just start the game over again, and the character's
Yeah.
back. So you don't have to. Yeah, there's nothing. You don't need. There's no real attachment to the death in games in general like that. But Aerith's death, yes, to me is still the most impactful death in a video game ever. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen anything bigger than that. I really haven't. Um, and the I would love to say that I remember the level leading up to it. I remember the obviously the cinematic sequence, but I for the life of me I do not remember the actual level leading up to it. But the intro level that you bring up with with the panning out and showing Midgar and then zooming into the train with Cloud on top of the train and jumping off, like all of that stuff was such an amazing intro sequence for a PlayStation game.
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, that first mission, which gets you to the town where you meet Aerith, um, all of that was just, yeah, that was like such a, I guess I'll say the word impactful again. It was such an impactful experience because you were, as the player yourself, you were realizing as you were controlling Cloud and the other characters when you go into battle that this game was probably unlike anything else you've played before. Uh, and it was going to be that way all the way to the end. And so I do agree with you that like that is an extremely monumental moment. I tried to put Final Fantasy VII on my list, but I just decided to stay away from RPGs.
I,
Um,
I can't not mention it because
I know.
it's like watching the original Star Wars trilogy,
Yep.
where you're riding high, and then you get to the end of Empire Strikes Back, and everything that
Yep.
awful that can happen to you does happen to you,
Yep.
and now everything is taking on a darker tone.
Yeah,
Uh,
which I loved. I actually love the fact that it did that, but I did the same thing you did. After she died, I had to shut the game off and I had to step away for I think I stepped away for a couple days.
yeah,
I just needed to process what I just experienced, and I'm like, holy cow. Um, but oh, one thing I wanted to mention to you, it was like a year or two ago. I think it was a couple of years ago. I did a Final Fantasy VII comparison video. It's on the YouTube page somewhere. Um, where I took the opening of Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 5 for the remake, and the demake that somebody did on the NES, and I
Oh yeah.
ran them. I ran them all at the same time to just show how they all play out. Only the first like 2 or 3 minutes, but just showing the intro sequence.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was kind of fun to do that. So if you search for that on the YouTube page, you'll see that. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've poured
You've
uh
poured.
most of my life into playing Final Fantasy VII. It's a game that I go back to
Yep.
what once a year sometimes, and I've heard that the remake is excellent, and but I just can't bring myself
Yep.
to like sully my memory of the original experience.
I will say this. The remake is excellent. I don't think it'll soil your experience because I feel like it plays differently enough that you're like, okay, I can kind of parse the two out. Because it plays more like a adventure RPG where the battles happen in real time. And to me, that dynamic makes it feel different enough.
Yeah.
Um, Rebirth, I was just starting getting back into after putting it down for 8 months, and the disc will no longer play in my PlayStation. And I
Huh.
tried to get a replacement disc, and that disc won't play either. So I went online and I found out that some of the Rebirth discs that were created do this, and you just have to get lucky with the Rebirth disc you get.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really bummed out because I was starting to make headway and then the disc just stopped working. And then a brand new one I bought also didn't work. So I'm kind of at a loss as to what to do, except
Strange.
maybe contact Square and say, hey, Square, I'm like, can you send me one that you know works so I can
Yeah.
play Rebirth? I don't want to download a digital copy.
Like
Uh,
advanced disc route or something like it.
yeah,
I could,
something like
I,
that. I don't know.
I could see like a manufacturing defect where like you play it for long enough and it ruins your laser, and now you need hardware repair. But it just
Yeah.
seems weird to me that
Nope. Every other disc I put in works fine.
huh,
It's just that one. So yeah, not sure what to do there. Okay. Let's move on to my next one. What we talked a bit of PlayStation 2, we talked PlayStation. I'm gonna go back to the NES, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, because some of the first games that popped in my head, and I didn't want this to be NES heavy because that was really my first major system. I had my Atari 2600 and then I had the NES. And I could have easily made my entire list out of NES games, but so I reined myself in. And the first game that came to mind for me before any of the other games I put down, Spider-Man was second, but the first one that came to mind was Castlevania, the original Castlevania game. So the game itself isn't a platformer. I think there are 6 or 7 stages overall in the game. I think it's seven stages. Um, and I first off, obviously I love the concept of this game. I was one of those kids that just loved, you know, horror stuff. Give me your Draculas, your Frankensteins, and things like that. So this appealed to me right off the bat for the gothic nature of it. But the reason why I put it on my list is because the very last stage of the game, or the stages, I should say, because they did them like every main stage was kind of broken in three. So stages 16 through 18, which are the final stages that lead you up to facing Dracula. I just remember how cool it was when I got to that level and to see how they kind of repurposed some of the earlier stages that you went through. So it was almost like the earlier stages in the game were, and Castlevania is a notoriously difficult game, right? I can understand why in Japan they released it on the Famicom disk system because it gave you a save option.
yeah,
On the NES one, it's like you died, you ran out of lives and continues, you're starting at the beginning again. Um, but with Castlevania, when you got to those last stages, I just remember how cool it felt to be like, oh, I was like, I played through this game so many times and worked my way through those difficult levels earlier just to prepare myself for these last levels because the last levels had was a bridge level which you had encountered earlier in the game.
yep.
I don't remember which enemy you fought. Maybe it was the mummy level. I don't remember exactly. But there was a bridge level which mirrored an earlier level, and then there was like the clock level which mirrored, I think, the second level in the game with all the clock workings. So I remember how I don't want to say how easy it was, but how manageable it was to get to Dracula because of how difficult the rest of the levels were and how it trained me to for what to expect on those levels. And then, of course, the final battle at the end of that against Dracula, which was absolutely epic,
Hmm.
in my opinion, back then. Again, as a kid, you know, that battle to me was just amazing. It's like I'm taking on Dracula and I'm going to beat him, and it took me a while. It took me a while to beat him, but it was definitely worth it. But I'll always remember that those final three stages in Castlevania 1.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you fight Death on the bridge, and he's throwing like scythes at you and stuff.
No,
And then
that's right. That's before that, the Grim Reaper. Yeah.
okay, and then Shaft, you have to fight Shaft, and he's got like all these glowing orbs and stuff that are like flying around and stuff like that before you can
That,
get to Dracula.
yeah, that I remember too. Yeah, Grim Reaper was the were the stages before because every level, like I think it was a vampire bat for for your first enemy. Second enemy was Medusa. The third one I think was Frankenstein, and then it was the Mummy, and then it was the Grim Reaper,
Yeah,
and then Dracula was last.
yeah,
So it was ultimately six levels. And then Shaft, like you said, was somewhere like a mid-level boss kind of thing.
yeah, and you got to fight him twice, I think, and he makes
Ye-
he makes a reappearance in some of the other games, Symphony of the Night, historically.
yes. Yeah. Symphony of the Night, arguably the best Castlevania game ever made. I wanted that to make my list so badly, but I don't remember a specific level to put on here. That was a lot of my problem when I put this list together. There are so many of my favorite games that I want to put on here, but it's been so long, I just can't remember or pinpoint a level
Yeah,
that stands out. That's
one of
just
those games.
my aging brain.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's probably the best Castlevania game ever made, but where do you chop it up and like what do you consider a level in that game, right?
Yeah, because again, it's open world. It's the reason why we have Metroidvania games, right?
Yeah.
That's how it happens. Um so yeah, so Castlevania 1, NES, last levels with Dracula on my
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
What do you got next?
I got kind of a light palate cleanser. You want to go there?
Yeah, something light would be nice. Everything we've done is heavy so far.
Yeah, no. Did you play a lot of Genesis as a kid?
I did.
Anytime I went over to like my friend's house or my cousin's house, and we were stuck in or snowed in or it was a snow day or something, we would almost always put in Streets of Rage.
Ah, I love Streets of Rage.
And I haven't popped this game in 20 years, but even so, I can I can listen to the opening music of the first level, just
Hmm.
that sort of like thumping like early rave stuff.
Yep.
And it's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously.
No.
You're side scrolling and just beating the crap at everybody, and they all kind of play the same way. But as far as like an iconic opening, and they all kind of open the same way. Like a car pulls up and your team gets out, and now and anytime you need to call in a special, it's like a SWAT team pulls up, like
Yeah.
it pans way over, and now here's a SWAT team, and they're firing missiles on your location, which I don't think is an approved SWAT method, but
Probably not.
uh, it works well in a video game.
Yeah, Streets of Rage. My first foray into Streets of Rage was Streets of Rage 2, actually.
Yeah,
And then I went backwards and played the first one, but I owned Streets of Rage 2. And the same thing, I remember just even in that one, I remember the music being very memorable. And again, side-scrolling beat 'em ups were just fun
yeah,
because
they're awesome.
yeah, you didn't have to worry about any type of complexity in the game. It was just about you drop in, your buttons punch and kick, and you just go and you beat the crap out of people. It's the Double Dragon game, basically.
Yeah.
That to me was the first one that I enjoyed doing that with.
And there's no explanation as to like who these dirtbags are. They're just
Nope.
like dudes with knives and like pool cues, and it's like, where are these
Yeah.
guys coming from? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah. Oh, you want like an origin story? Well, see, then you need to argue for the Streets of Rage creators to do like an RPG, right? Where you give a whole bunch of lore, where
I want some backstory.
you want some backstory.
Yeah, I want something.
Um, well, yeah, well, you can turn Streets of Rage into like a GTA style game.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I
it's
just
it's
I
a
just want to know.
it's a city, there are a lot of gangs and stuff like that going on. To me, it's like a love letter to like 70s New York City, 70s Manhattan,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Um, Streets of Rage is a good one to put on there. That's fun. Um, I have a Genesis one on the list that I'll touch on too. This is like our palette, like you said, our palette cleanser section
Yeah, let's
of the
cleanse it.
podcast. So, I couldn't avoid putting a Sonic the Hedgehog game on the list
Mm.
because the Sonic games are absolutely amazing, nonstop entertainment, super fast, all that stuff. I honestly thought I was going to go with the Dreamcast one, Sonic Adventure, but again, my memory failed me on that one. I remember loving the game, but I can't pinpoint a level. Except maybe the first level where you're kind of just running through everything and this whale comes out of the ocean and like kind of jumps over you. Like that I remember very clearly in my head.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the one I'm talking about on the Genesis is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it's the Casino Night Zone levels. Now, um, for somebody for somebody who like games and stuff like that, uh, I'm a gambler. I like to gamble. I don't gamble a ton of money. I love casinos. It's a thing that I do. Even when I was younger, the concept of casinos were very intriguing to me. I was super fascinated by Casino Kid on the NES.
Oh
And
yeah.
that game was just basically all about playing blackjack and poker in a casino.
Yeah.
So casino stuff was always interesting to me. So when Sonic the Hedgehog 2 did this Casino Night Zone, I just remember loving every single moment I was in those levels because they really did their best to do casinos right on those levels with, you know, the bright lights, the flashing lights, and again, as Sonic is speeding through all this stuff, it was just like a veritable like just smorgasbord of casino reference. Um, right down to I want to say even moments where there was some slot machine elements going on in there. To me it was almost like these levels were the inspiration for what became Sonic Spinball maybe later because there was that part with the slot machines in it. If I'm remembering it correctly, I hope I'm remembering correctly because I know Sonic Spinball did a casino night version of a pinball machine there. But I just remember playing through those levels and absolutely loving it because I was a huge casino fan. And again, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, for me, was my favorite Sonic game on the Genesis. That only got usurped by Adventure on Dreamcast when it came out. But yeah, but Sonic 2, and obviously the introduction of Tails, big bonus there. But Sonic
Yeah.
2 Casino Night Zone, definitely, whenever I think of Sonic games, those are the first levels that pop into my head.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I like the Casino Night background too. I have some things to say about Sonic, but on the bad level design, so maybe we'll save
Mm.
that for later.
Well, yes, we'll talk about that. That's part of our bonus level. Um, and for those of you out there, anybody who subscribes to us on our Patreon page will get access to the bonus level portion of this episode that we'll get to later. The Retro Gamers Podcast is brought to you by Old School Gamer Magazine. Sign up for as little as $20 per year for 6 issues that include feature articles, interviews with retro programmers, new and old product reviews, and more. If you look carefully, you'll even see an article or two penned by yours truly. You can head over to oldschoolgamermagazine.com/retrogamerspodcast and sign up so they know where you heard about it. Old School Gamer is dedicated to you, the old school retro gamers from the arcades to your home. But for now, we're going to continue talking about favorite game levels. John, what is next on your list?
Um, all right, maybe we'll get a little heavy on this one.
Oh boy.
So it's a game that you had discussed previously with the two middle-aged guys trying to work it all out.
Okay.
And it's a moment in Fallout 3. Um, so you're playing as the main character. You're in a vault. Your dad disappears one day when you're 18, and the main quest is basically you exiting the vault and trying to find your dad.
Okay.
Um, when you finally do find him, he's in a vault and he's strapped to an AI. He's in a pod, and it turns out that the overseer of this vault has everybody in that vault in a simulation that he created called Tranquility Lane.
Okay.
And so you have to enter a pod to go into the simulation to interact with everybody. And it's this black and white, idyllic, like cul-de-sac 50s neighborhood. and the overseer, whose name is Dr. Braun, he's like this degenerate, like German scientist. He is disguised as this little girl named Betty, and as it turns out, your dad is a dog in the simulation.
Oh,
Everybody exists in the simulation to sort of appease the, the sadistic nature of this guy.
okay.
So your whole quest in this simulation is to try to find the failsafe because he put in a failsafe so you can exit the simulation.
Okay.
Uh, you do finally manage to get you and your dad out of the simulation and trap him in a simulation by himself forever. But I found that portion of the game to be just fascinating. It's just like simulation within a simulation. Um, and I just thought that was super cool.
So it's the inception of video games, basically, that level.
Basically, yeah, and there's a lot of weird things that happen within Fallout games, and maybe we'll touch on another one in a similar category soon. But that was just super weird, a super weird like side road to go down, but it needed to happen. It's not really like an optional thing. But
Uh,
from there, you find out that you were, okay, you found your dad, but here's now this laundry list of other things that have to happen. Um, so it was like the culmination of like part one of your journey.
oh, that sounds like a fun. Yeah, it sounds like a fun level. Like I said, Fallout I haven't played, but it's definitely one that has gotten my interest, especially because of I've heard the TV the series is doing really well, which
Yeah,
I haven't started yet either. All right, let's jump to another one on my list. I'm gonna go to an obvious one. We'll go to the Nintendo 64 this time. Um, and I can't talk in 64 without talking Super Mario 64. I mean, Super Mario 64 was kind of like this rude awakening. Not a rude awakening, but like just an awakening of what video games could be capable of in 3D. And that game to me at the time when it came out was just pure perfection. And the cool thing about that one, there were so many different levels in that game that you can play, and each level had 6 or 7 different challenges that you had to do on the levels. But the one level to me that always stood out, and it was one of the fairly early ones in the game. It was probably like second or third level, or painting that you would jump into was Cool Cool Mountain. Um, and Cool Cool Mountain to me just I remember playing it and just marveling at so many different elements of that level in terms of, again, first real, this game was my first real introduction into like a true 3D platformer and what they can do. I know that came out, PlayStation came out previously and had some of those things, but I got an N64 before I got a PlayStation. So Mario 64 was my first foray into that. And just marveling at the physics in the game would give me pause. Like going through Cool Cool Mountain, just something as simple as first off, you're going through the snow. Your character is reacting like he's going through the snow, like he's actually slower when he's moving. If you jumped up in the air really high and hold on 1 second, I gotta fix my headphones and make sure you can still hear me,
yeah, you're good.
which is good. But jumping in the air and falling in, and then if you would ground pound into the snow, you would actually like dive into the snow and get stuck for a moment. And then there was an animation that pulled you out of the snow. Like the physics that they put into the game were so realistic to me. Like they really took extra special care. And Cool Cool Mountain kind of showcased it to me the most, especially because it was early on in the game. But not only that, just even the aspect of um, when Mario would slide on his belly, if you were on a downhill slope, you were sliding down the whole slope the way you would if you were like in a sled. And one of the most memorable stars that you can collect in that level was you had to race a penguin down an ice slide.
Oh yeah,
And the ice slide had no railings on either side. So you had to make sure that you stayed on the course and went fast enough to beat him. There was a cheat where you can jump off one side and kind of get down to the bottom or whatever, which is fine. But I remember how much fun it was to kind of sit there and just dive and slide and do that race. And again, just the other getting the other stars on that level and running through it with the physics of the snow and how it impacted you with the moves you were doing. And then, of course, one of the famous memes that comes out of that level that you see online are one of the challenges was also to find a baby penguin and return the baby penguin to its mama at the bottom of the level. And then people notoriously taking the baby penguin and throwing him off the ledge into the
Yeah.
ether, um, which has, which blew up, which went viral online with a meme. But that Cool Mountain level to me just was so much fun. It makes me smile when I think about it now.
Yeah.
And when I go back to play Mario 64, which I do every so often just to do it, I always pick that level.
Yeah, and the ice mechanics too, like you said, it showcased everything right. And
Yeah.
were you the type of guy in the beginning of that game? Because you know how you can like manipulate Mario's face. You can
Yes, I
like
would always do that.
I would do that for like an hour and a half before like even turning the game on. I'm like, I'm
I
just gonna
wouldn't.
check Mario's face out.
I wouldn't do it that long. I do it for like 5 or 10 minutes, but yeah, I loved how like elasticy it would. Like after you were done, it would then just like pop back when it
Yeah.
if you left it alone.
Yep. Yeah.
So much fun. And then they actually used that face pulling thing as a mini game in Mario Party when Mario Party came out.
Interesting. Which
I don't
one
know
was
if you knew
that?
that.
Yeah.
I think it was the first Mario Party. And the goal was they would stretch the face of the character, and then you had to try and match it. And whichever person matched it the closest would win the mini game. All right.
Excellent.
Do you have any more left on your list? I don't know where we are. I wasn't counting.
Yeah, I mean, I got a few more. I got
All
another
right,
light.
go for it.
Uh, Staying with the N64.
All right.
Uh, we've all played GoldenEye.
You have, yes.
You haven't played GoldenEye?
First person. I tried it. I tried it once.
All
I
right.
couldn't do it. I couldn't handle it.
Um, the opening level of that game, you're on a dam, and it's the opening shot where Bond flies into jumps off a dam into the Russian site. But then the second level facility is just such an iconic level where you're starting in the vents. You're dropping down to the bathroom, and now you're in this facility. And it doesn't hold your hand necessarily. It lets you get to the end, and it's also a memorable multiplayer level in that game.
Yes, I know the multiplayer level was the big draw for that game.
That was the big one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I don't have too much to say about it. I do on some of these other ones, but I can't move past the facility.
Okay. Yeah. Um, GoldenEye has been argued to be like one of the best games on the N64. And what's funny about the multiplayer thing, when you read the history of the GoldenEye game, it was a last second add-on that they just threw in the game a month before it released.
Yeah,
The developer was just like, I'm just gonna sneak this in here and see what happens. And that was the main selling point of that game.
it worked. Yeah,
Um, it worked like gangbusters. To this day, we still talk about GoldenEye, and I think they still do like GoldenEye tournaments and stuff like that, and gaming tournaments. And so definitely a fun one. I'll do a quick one also. There's one here I can talk about briefly. It's on the Super Nintendo. I remember buying this game and absolutely loving it. It was called Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
oh yeah,
Love that game. I actually have a copy of it on PlayStation 4 because Limited Run Games did a release of it. But there's a level in that game, and I believe that game was either 99 or 100 levels to get through to beat it. I can say, honestly, I've never beaten the game, but level 8 in that game, and every level, by the way, almost was like a horror movie. So they all had movie titles, so to speak. Like they had titles for every level.
yeah,
And they would give you like a line before it. It'd be like, meet your gruesome fate in, and then they would give you the title the way it would almost be like a movie trailer. But level 8 in that game was called Titanic Toddler. And I'll always remember this level because, again, the goal of Zombies Ate My Neighbors was to save the humans before the monsters got them. And there were zombies and all kinds of monsters. On this specific level, you were fighting a Titanic toddler. So it was like a 20-foot baby that was
yeah,
basically running back and forth, and you had to defeat this baby in order to survive the level. But the baby would constantly like you had to be careful because the baby was moving so quickly. it was very easy to get stepped on and
Yeah,
die.
yeah.
So it was always super challenging to beat. But I just remember the first off, I remember laughing so much because of this giant baby running around and the way that they programmed it to run around was just really fun. And just the challenge of it all. It was just so absurd and entertaining at the same time. So that was one I threw on my list because I was just like, of all the games on the Super Nintendo, I never thought the one that I would mention is Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but that level to me was just super fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I haven't played that game in ages.
Yeah.
Uh, was probably one of those games again I played with a cousin and saw him
Yeah.
do it. Not sure if I ever made it to that level myself personally.
It's super fun. So much fun.
Yeah.
All right. Next.
I got a weird one.
I like
Um,
weird ones. Hit me with a weird one.
it's not so much vintage these days. It's Wasteland 3. It's a game that came out in maybe 2014,
Yep.
and
That's more current. Yeah.
it's in my brain just because I played it recently.
Okay.
And so there's a quest. I guess for context, your crew is moved up to Colorado. They accept this mission from the guy that runs Colorado Springs, and your base back in Arizona got destroyed in Wasteland 2. And you play as the Arizona Rangers, and you go up to try to get resources and stuff for your people back home. It's sort of a last ditch desperation kind of mission. And so you spend most of your game hooking up with this guy named the Patriarch, who wants you to go and find his kids. There's three children, and they're all occupying different areas of Colorado. One's holed up in Aspen, one's holed up in Denver, and another one is sort of MIA out in the plains somewhere. But the mission where it takes you to Denver, you interact with a bunch of people called the Gippers, and they have this unhealthy obsession for Ronald Reagan and all things Ronald Reagan. And they have a Ronald Reagan AI in the basement of their, main headquarters that sort of runs the show. And there's like an animatronic Ronald Reagan outside that has lasers for eyes and stuff.
That's
Um,
hysterical.
there's a side mission there, and it's completely optional. You get contacted by a guy named Morningstar,
Okay.
and he claims to be a government agent, and he really wants you to help him escape the basement of this facility. So if you choose to accept this mission, you're going to spend the next several hours of your life going down fighting all these raiders and stuff like that. Finally, you get to the basement of this building and you come around a corner and you look through the window and you find out that Morningstar is not a person. It is an AI of Ronald Reagan's personnel carrier. And it wants you to help it put itself down because it realizes that because of the sheer amount of time that's passed, Ronald Reagan has surely died and he failed his mission and he doesn't want to be alive anymore. And so, like, and in true Wasteland fashion, you can do one of a couple different things. You can sort of help him, do himself in, or if your speech is high enough, you can convince him to, hey, there's bad people out there. You can help us. You can be on our vehicle and you can help us disseminate freedom throughout the country or whatever, however it is that you word it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just one of those quests, man, that's just so zany and you don't see it coming. And it's like you're interacting with a car this whole time, um, expecting to see a person. But that stuck with me as one of the most memorable quests in the past 10 years.
And the game continues either way, whether you convince him or not.
Yep, you can blow him up and everything's cool, or you can take him with you and install his AI onto your Kodiak that you drive around in. And when you're in the overland sections of the game, if you have him installed, he's like screaming, like freedom and all this other stuff to like God.
Oh,
It's
it,
it's
it's like Knight Rider with Ronald Reagan.
basically but with Ronald Reagan.
That's hysterical.
Yeah,
That does sound completely absurd. I love it.
it's completely absurd. The whole game is full of quests like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, highly recommended to anybody that likes a squad based kind of RPG.
All right, Wasteland. All right, would have never have thought about a game like that with an AI Ronald Reagan, but there you have it.
There it is.
Oh my gosh. All right, what do I have left on my list here? Okay, I'm gonna jump over to the PlayStation 2. This the Kingdom Hearts series. There have been so many games for this one. Granted, there have been three main games. They have one, two, and three. I believe Kingdom Hearts 4 is in the works. But then they had a whole bunch of like different versions of the game, like a 2.8 and a point 0.6 and all these Birth by Sleep and things like that. Um, for me, Kingdom Hearts, I've only played through the first one and partially through Chain of Memories, because I'm one of those people who needs to do everything in order, and it's driving me crazy that I've never played Kingdom Hearts 2. But I remember how much fun Kingdom Hearts 1 was because it was unprecedented at the time to have Square, synonymous with the Final Fantasy franchise, do a Disney themed RPG style game, um, full, with an original character that you play as, but full of Disney characters and Disney worlds with NPC Final Fantasy characters peppered in places, which was, great little surprises along the way. Um, I don't know. Have you ever played Kingdom Hearts or?
So I know of it, obviously. I respect the series for what it is. And I'm a
Yeah,
huge Final Fantasy fan, as you know, but I never got into Disney the way
yeah,
that a lot of other people did. And so,
yeah,
like, I don't really care about like
and
Mickey in a video game or like
yeah,
Daffy Donald or whatever. It's
yeah,
like,
Donald, and that's fair. I understand that. This one to me just worked really well because of the fact that Square did it, and Square is brilliant at doing these kind of games. So I thought it was really clever how they put it together. And the whole point of the game is that all the Disney worlds have been taken over by this enemy called the Heartless, and it's draining all of, I don't know if it was like the positivity or, it's draining all the happiness out of these worlds, right?
yeah.
And you have to go to the different Disney worlds and defeat the Heartless. So one of the earlier worlds in the game that you go to is Alice in Wonderland. You go to Wonderland. And the reason why I put this on my list is I remember playing through Wonderland and just marveling at how colorful it was, how beautiful it was, um, how you were battling like the playing cards in the game. You remember Alice in Wonderland? They had the playing card army,
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
Queen of Hearts has, and then battling the Queen of Hearts and the Cheshire Cat showing up. It was just such a cool experience to be able to take a character that wasn't a Disney character, right? Because Sora is the main character, and
yeah,
you're flanked by Donald and Goofy. Um, Goofy, I'm trying to remember. Donald is like the wizard, and Goofy is more of a knight. But playing through that level for me, it was just there was so much fun involved in it, going through the hedge mage, doing the hedge mage part. And like I said, fighting the Queen of Hearts, all like running into the Cheshire Cat, all of these things. There was just something so playful about it and yet challenging enough to make it worthy of a Square RPG style game. And I just remember that level selling me on the rest of the journey through that game because you jump through all kinds of different worlds. You go through, you go to the Colosseum with Hercules. You wind up in Halloween Town at Nightmare Before Christmas. Like they really jump
yeah.
around a lot. And then future games cover other Disney films. But it was so much fun. And at the same time, it was still a challenging enough game that to me, I felt like they balanced it well enough to appeal to a broad audience. And so I was sold on this because after coming off of Final Fantasy 7 and 8 on PlayStation, um, for some odd reason, I never played Final Fantasy 9 and I never played the ones on PlayStation 2, 10 and 10 2, which I've heard were amazing. And I have copies of them that I need to pop in. But I wound up on Kingdom Hearts, and to be honest with you, it was the best. It was the best decision I ever made because, at least on my PlayStation 2, because it was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the right decision. So, like, of the PS1 Final Fantasy games or of any Final Fantasy game, if you played 7, 8, and 9, like, that's it. That's the trio right there.
Mhm.
By the time you get to 10, it's like they changed the whole junction system or whatever. But I've seen gameplay of Kingdom Hearts. Like I said, I respect that they did it. Visually, it looks awesome. It's just not, it was never a game for me just because of the Disney stuff.
Yeah, you're not a Disney guy.
I
Totally get it.
couldn't I couldn't mentally get over that hurdle. It's
Yeah.
probably a fantastic game. I just can't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is, and and I feel like they've done more with that. Like I know the Epic Mickey games were very well
Yeah,
received later on and stuff like that. So I feel like Kingdom Hearts was kind of their for it, like kind of their starting point for doing more 3D stuff with the Disney characters. But I just love the fact that they grounded it in uh a human character that was not a Disney character. You're not running around, you know, it's not Mickey's adventure, so to speak. In fact, Mickey is the
right.
king in the game. He's King Mickey.
Yeah,
So yeah, just really cool overall. And I totally understand why you would not play it for the Disney connection.
yeah, it's just not for me.
Yeah,
I hear that Mickey Mouse Clubhouse song in the back of my head, and I
and you're
get,
shot.
I can't
Well,
do it.
yeah, I was gonna say having kids may color your judgment as well.
Yeah,
So okay, so do you have any other ones left?
I have one more
All
from
right,
like this one era, and then I have like an honorable mention.
okay, and I have two left on my list, so we can wrap this up.
Yeah, perfect.
Go.
I'm gonna jump back to Armored Core for the PS1.
Okay,
It's a game that
Armored
I
Core.
mentioned previously. It's a mech game. You know, you're in the post-apocalyptic future. Everybody's living underground. There's two corporations that are sort of vying for total control. And each one of your missions is a mission that's offered by one of these two companies. So as you move through the game, you can kind of see that you've been playing, accepting more missions from one company to fight against the other one, and vice versa. But in one of the missions, it's called the Underground Base mission. You are contacted by one of these companies to go into an underground base and go clear out the remnants of this AI that it's got robots and stuff that are patrolling. You just need to take them all out. And it seems simple enough. So you're going and taking all these things out. You get to the end of the mission, and all of a sudden a voice comes on the overhead saying, "Hey, thanks for doing this, but you are my mission. You're trapped here now. Good day." And you're like seemingly stuck in this room with a timer going off. And turns out there's an NPC that you interacted with briefly that is trying to kill you as part of his mission. And so
Nice.
you now need to blow up a wall and trying to find your way out of this place before it explodes. And it was one of the first missions where like an NPC truly like boned you over in a game. Like I've been interacting with these guys, but they haven't really done anything. Now they're actively trying to kill me. Um, so that was just a cool experience overall.
That is kind of cool. I like that. Again, it's one of those things. It's funny how like a good number of the ones on your list all involve like some type of twist,
Yeah,
which makes it memorable. Um, yeah, but that does sound like a cool level. Armor Core never crossed my radar on the PlayStation when I
yeah,
played it. But obviously, as I've gotten into retro gaming and doing this podcast, like it's definitely popped up on my
yeah.
radar. I've just never played one.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody. It's a niche game. It came out, it's a early From Software game too, by the way.
Mhm.
And it's
But they
just
made a few. They made a few of them, didn't they?
it did, and they
Yeah.
and they rebooted it recently. It was a game that kind of languished, like Armored Core 2, 3 through 5, and then Fires of Rubicon came out recently for the PS5, which is they ramped up the gameplay, made it faster, and added checkpoints and stuff, which I don't necessarily agree with as far as a gameplay perspective goes, but I
Okay.
do have it. It's interesting. It's more of a bullet hell game now than a uh, customizable. I mean, there's some customization, but apologies if you hear my cat.
No, that's fine. My cat jumped on my lap in the middle of the show, like he always does, so it's perfectly fine.
she's
Cats
now
are
in my room, and she's very vocal, so I'll try to
okay.
keep her.
It's fine. Cats are welcome here. All right, I'm gonna go to the Super Nintendo for my next one, my second to last one. Um, and this game to me was one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo. It was the Batman the Animated Series game.
Oh yeah,
Obviously, Batman the Animated Series, in my opinion, one of the best cartoons ever made. One of the very few cartoons that, at least in the 90s, that was prime time. There's your
yeah,
cat making a cameo on the
oh
show
yeah,
if you're watching. Um, but I absolutely loved Batman the Animated Series game because it played like you were in the actual cartoon. Like the graphics mirrored the cartoon, the levels, each level stuck to a specific villain you played that you fought against that was in the cartoon. Obviously Batman's rogue gallery is vast, and they stuck to a lot of the main ones that you saw on the show. But the level with all of the levels in that game, and to be honest with you, I can probably name two or three levels in this game as favorites. The one that stuck out the most to me in this game was the level called Riddle Me This, and it was the Riddler's level. Have you ever played this game or no?
But yeah, briefly back in the
Yeah.
90s.
So the Riddle Me This level was, and I believe it actually took the concept from an episode of the actual show. A lot of the levels in this game, I think, did that. And what happens is Batman winds up trapped in a maze, and the Riddler is telling him in order to get out of the maze, you have to find your way through it. And as you get to certain places, he leaves you with a riddle that you need to solve.
Yeah,
And the goal is at the end of it, if I remember correctly, you have to save Commissioner and Barbara Gordon because he's kidnapped them on this specific level. Um, and you're making your way through this maze, and it's really cool because you get to doorways, you get to hallways, to like corners. You can go up, you can go down, and whatever, and you try and find your way through. And I just remember how much fun it was trying to navigate your way through this maze. And then when you get to these other points where the riddles would pop up, they would give you a riddle and you got to figure it out. And they were like mini bosses as you went along too. Um, and then you got to these certain points where you had to solve a riddle. There was nothing to help you solve it. You just had to figure it out.
yeah,
And I remember getting stuck on, I think, the last riddle in the actual board. I got stuck on it for a very, very long time. In fact, I think I needed to get help to solve it. And then after you solve that last riddle, you fight a Minotaur. But then after you fight the Minotaur, the maze dissolves, and then you fall onto a chessboard. And then you're running through a chessboard with a virtual version of the Riddler's head and hands above you, and he's shooting lasers on the chessboard pieces, and you have to jump over those gaps so you don't die. And then you wind up battling chess pieces before you finally fight the VR version of the Riddler in the level. I just remember there were so many like different elements on this level that I just absolutely loved it. And of course, combining it with Batman the Animated Series to me, it just made such a beautiful combination.
yeah, definitely. That's a game I'd like to go back and revisit.
I highly recommend it. And the Genesis one was good too. Completely different game. The Batman animated series games were not the same on Super Nintendo Genesis, which is rare.
Yeah,
When they were, so it's worth going back and playing both. But for me, the Super Nintendo one is my favorite. And the Riddler board to me stands out as one of my favorite levels in gaming.
yeah, it's similar to like the Spider-Man games that came out, like Maximum Carnage and
Yep.
Separation Anxiety. They're like
Hmm.
two very different games on SNES or Genesis.
Yes. Okay, what is your honorable mention? And then I'll close with my last one.
Yeah, this one's kind of new, so I kind of wanted to keep.
New.
It's Breath of the Wild. So if we're talking about prologues to games, just the intro to Breath of the Wild, where you are exiting the Chamber of Resurrection and you are now on the Great Plateau.
Yes.
The Great Plateau serves as the tutorial for the game. You have to go to these four shrines to get your Sheikah abilities and stuff, and it's forcing you to solve problems creatively because you have no equipment or anything yet. And you can't exit the plateau because you don't have a paraglider yet. But just visually, just coming up to that cliff, seeing everything that's going on, introducing you to all the game's mechanics off the rip without holding your hand, I think is a
Yep.
challenge. Nintendo pulled it off. Um, just a great intro sequence
Mhm.
to one of the best games of all time.
Yeah, well, I'll agree with absolutely everything you said, especially because when you come out of that cave and you know, you see this vast land of Hyrule in front of you. They basically were just hitting you over the head of this is going to be a completely new Legend of Zelda experience that you've never had before. Like they just hit you right on the head with that. And to your point, like that beginning part, yeah, absolutely beautiful. So that is a good honorable mention from a current game, not a retro. Um, but it actually segues into my final game on the list, which was which is The Legend of Zelda on the original Nintendo Entertainment System.
Nice.
So this is the game I go back to the most. This is the game I play the most, um, by far and away. No, I don't think there's any other game in the world that I've played more than Legend of Zelda on NES. And the level to me in that game, and when we talk about level, obviously, I'm talking about one of the dungeons, right?
Yeah,
Um, the Death Mountain dungeon, the last dungeon when you face Ganon, is, in my opinion, so vast. There's so much going on in this level. It's easy. It's very challenging because there are so many different ladders that you have to go down, so many different passageways you have to go through,
yeah,
to find the different items you need in order to face Ganon. You have to find, you have to find the key to open the door to face Ganon. You have to find the silver arrow in order to face Ganon. If you want to have a better shot at beating Ganon without dying, the red ring is hiding in this level. So there's so many elements you need to do in that final level before you face Ganon. That to me, it was like it's like the ultimate challenge because for all the times I've beaten this game many, many, many times. Death Mountain is the one level I can never remember how to navigate through because there are so many different ways that you can navigate yourself in this level. So I can never remember it down. I can never get it down. And every time I get to that level, I'm always struggling to find my way,
yeah,
which to me is entertaining because I've played this so many times. Um, but just the fact of like, you're kind of running a gauntlet through that last level. It's cool. It's also in the shape of a skull, which is
yeah,
really cool. Like the
yeah,
map
definitely.
itself is the shape of a skull. Um, just and then obviously the end experience of beating Ganon, of saving Zelda, rewarding you for all of the hard work you did, completing the other 8 levels. Everything about that level to me is just like fantastic. It is the entree of that game. And I ate it. I eat it up every single time.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that one. Yeah, it's tough, but it's worth playing. Memorable.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, there wouldn't be a Breath of the Wild without the original Legend of Zelda.
Have you seen the crazy speedrun glitches for A Link to the Past? Right? Is that the one on the Super Nintendo?
The one that you can beat it in like 5 minutes. Yeah.
You have to like jump off a ladder,
Mhm.
pause midair, save it, and then like glitch through a door. Yeah, there was a guy that beat it in like 3.5 minutes. I was like, what?
Yep. Yeah, glitches are out there in old games, and people are just finding them and taking advantage of them.
Yep.
All right, but those were a couple of really healthy lists from both of us. I had a blast talking about this topic about
Yeah,
favorite
this is
levels.
great, man. I'm
So
sure I could keep going. I mean, I've got some bad ones, obviously, but like,
yeah, oh no, I mean yeah, bad ones are plenty. And for anybody who wants to hear us discuss levels that we did not enjoy, head on over to our Patreon page at Retro Gamers Podcast. Sign up for the subscription service, and you can listen to us continue the conversation on retro game levels, except talking about the opposite side of them, the ones that we didn't like. Other than that, John, I'm so happy you joined me for this topic. It was really fun. Where can people find you?
people can contact me at crerecycling@gmail.com. We're also going to be at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo again this year.
Yeah.
Uh,
As far as
uh,
I know, I think I'll be back for that too.
nice. Yeah, there'll be
Yeah.
some setup and all kinds of stuff. So more on that in the future, but we'll be back there if anybody wants to see me in person.
Awesome. Yep. And for me, I will be at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. I believe I have a table again this year. So I
Nice.
did not have a table last year, but I'll have a table again this year. And for those of you out there who want to, please like and subscribe. You can find us everywhere at Retro Gamers Podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, and now, of course, on Patreon. And for Patreon people, there is the free level and the subscriber level. If you don't want to pay for the subscription level, you can still join us on the free level and have some conversations and content there as well. John's cat is also wishing you a good day. He's doing everything but waving. But for everybody out there, we will catch you next time on the Retro Gamers Podcast.